When Brinley screamed that I'd ruined her life, my parents didn't flinch. They didn't say, "Brinley, that's not fair," or even glance in my direction with concern. They nodded, as if what she said wasn't cruel but true. That was the moment everything inside me went still. No fight, no defense. Just a quiet switch flipping off. I didn't shout, I didn't cry. I picked up my coat from the hook by the door, slung my backpack over one shoulder, and walked out into the freezing air. The cold hit my cheeks like open palms. I remember the way the wind bit through my sleeves, the weight of silence clinging to me, thicker than my coat. No one followed. No one called out. I walked 4 blocks to the bus stop and didn't look back once. That was 2 weeks ago. This morning, I woke up to 14 missed calls. All from them. My mother, my father, even Brinley. Now they say they need me. So the question is, what changed? Have you ever been erased until they realized they needed the one they discarded? If you've been in that kind of silence, the kind that says you don't matter, I want to hear your story. Leave a comment below and let me know where you're watching from. And if this hit you in the chest like it did me, don't forget to subscribe. We're just getting started. The house always smelled faintly of citrus polish and something synthetic like too much air freshener, layered over too many things unspoken. Our living room was practically a showroom, the cream sectional fluffed just right, the gold frame prints arranged by color temperature. But under the curated light, it never felt warm. Not to me. Brinley's voice echoed from the far end of the room as I stood at the kitchen threshold, clutching a chipped mug of green tea I'd reheated twice. She was midstream, grinning into her phone camera. 50,000, you guys, I seriously cannot believe this. Her ring light glowed like a spotlight, casting soft filters across her perfectly bronzed skin. I watched her throw finger hearts at the screen, while my name Kaia hung invisible in the air between us. Our parents, Heather and Martin, sat nearby, nodding as if she'd just won a Nobel Prize. Mom had that polite half-smile she reserved for fundraising events. Dad was sipping his scotch, eyes glassy from habit more than pride. My name hadn't come up once in over an hour. That wasn't unusual. I'd become something of a ghost in that house. Not tragic or rebellious, just easy to overlook. I didn't wear makeup. I didn't film myself. I didn't have fans. I had students. Quiet ones. High schoolers struggling with writing skills. Middle schoolers who couldn't finish tests without shutting down. I helped them breathe again. Helped them believe again. But there were no trophies for that. No likes. Just quiet inboxes and canceled coffee appointments. Growing up, Brinley was always the firework, and I was the fuse no one noticed until she lit up. I listened while she talked over me. I stayed behind while she took center stage. "You're so grounded," teachers used to tell me. So reliable. What they meant was, we don't have to worry about you. It's strange how invisibility feels safe until it starts to ache. Our family dinners were photo ops more than meals. Brinley would set up a tripod by the dining room archway, making sure the lighting hit her side of the face just right. Mom would ask Kaia, "Can you slide down a bit? You're in the shadow." I always slid down. The worst part, I believed they didn't mean any harm. I excused it. I told myself I was just quieter, simpler, not the attention type. But the truth was, I had been edited out of my own life in real time frame by frame. I remembered a birthday once mine. I was turning 26. Brinley had just signed her first brand deal with a skincare company. That night, she walked into the kitchen holding a cake with her name on it, not mine. Mom clapped. I blinked. No one noticed the candles were the wrong number. I washed the dishes after. By the time the night of the blow-up arrived, the one where Brinley said I ruined everything, I wasn't surprised. I was only surprised by how much it didn't surprise me. How rehearsed it all felt. As if we had been working toward this moment for years, and I just hadn't read the script. I think that's what hurt the most. That when she said it, "You ruin everything," they didn't flinch. Mom smoothed her skirt and said it so calmly as if discussing leftovers. She's not wrong. Dad didn't speak. He just rubbed his forehead and exhaled like the problem was as old as the house. I didn't argue. There are moments you realize fighting won't change anything. The foundation has already cracked. The lights might still be on, but no one sees you. Not really. That night I packed without sound. I left behind everything sentimental, framed photos, old journals, gifts that had never been unwrapped. I took the essentials, a pair of jeans, 2 sweaters, my laptop, and my grandmother's notebook. I didn't even check the calendar. I just left. Some exits are loud. Mine was quiet enough to disappear, but I wasn't gone. I was just starting. They had no idea what kind of stillness they had awakened. Redfern Suites smelled like old cigarettes and bleach that never quite did its job. The neon sign outside my window blinked unevenly, casting my motel room in pulses of red light that made it hard to sleep even if I'd wanted to, but I didn't. Sleep wasn't an option when your whole body was wired with memory, when the last thing you heard before slamming the door shut behind you was your mother saying, "You've ruined all of us," like it was just a weather report. Predictable, ironic, unavoidable. The motel room was bare, one creaky bed, a dresser with a drawer that didn't quite shut, a nightstand missing a knob. Still, it was mine. Paid with the last $42 I had in my coat pocket. I didn't cry that first night. I just lay there staring at the water stain in the ceiling, shaped like a bird with its wings torn, or maybe a question mark. It shifted depending on how you tilted your head. The next morning, I walked down to a cafe I'd passed the night before. A chalkboard out front said, "Free Wi-Fi, coffee refills all day." That was all I needed. I ordered the smallest cup, $1.75, and sat near the only outlet trying to make the most of the last $20 bill in my wallet. I logged into an old tutoring site I hadn't touched in 2 years, Elevate Ed. My profile was still there, Kaia Linford, SAT Act Prep Writing Coach. The photo was outdated, but the tagline read, "Patient, clear, reliable." I added one more line: I believe in showing up even when no one else does. By noon, I'd applied to 16 listings. Most were for stressed-out high school students or overwhelmed parents trying to give their kids a shot. It felt strange, almost too easy to click send message, like launching a paper airplane into a canyon and hoping someone caught it. Halfway through the 5th application, I paused. I'd written the words "reliable, compassionate listener" in my bio, and suddenly I could hear my grandmother's voice. "You were always the one who listened." I remembered sitting on the rug at her feet during Sunday dinners, everyone else talking over one another while I just listened. She saw it in me even when no one else did. After she passed, I learned she'd written me a second letter, one I never received. When I asked my mom about it at the funeral, she said, "Oh, that wasn't anything important. Just sweet old lady things. Like my presence, sweet, unnecessary, disposable." That day, I pushed the memory aside and kept clicking. By evening, 2 messages rolled in. One was from a parent in Raleigh, another from a GED student in Dallas. My heart jumped a little, not because of the pay, it was modest, but because someone somewhere had seen my name and thought, "Yes, I trust her with my kid's future." That night, I borrowed a Chromebook from the library 2 blocks away and hosted my first online session. The student, a sophomore named Leah Cortez, hated math but loved writing stories about sea monsters. I showed her how to structure a personal essay, using her creature as a metaphor. "You're the first person who explained this in a way that actually makes sense," she said at the end. That one sentence sat in my chest for hours, like a flicker of something warm and familiar recognition. Afterward, I returned to the motel and wrote her name and payment on the back of my receipt from check-in. I underlined it twice. It wasn't much. 2 sessions, $60 total. Enough for 2 more nights at Redfern Suites and a little dignity. The room still smelled like damp curtains. The radiator still rattled like it was arguing with itself. But I didn't care. For the first time in years, I felt useful. Not to the people who wanted me silent and still, but to someone who saw me for exactly what I was. A teacher, a guide, someone worth listening to. I stared at the glow of my screen long after midnight, the quiet hum of the mini fridge playing back up to my thoughts. They hadn't called yet, but something inside me had already shifted. And I knew they would. It started with a photo. I wasn't looking for anything, just scrolling. Half awake, my fingers swiping out of habit, not intent. But then Brinley's face lit up my feed, flawless makeup, pearl earrings captioned with "Family is who shows up when it matters." Don't ever forget that. I almost kept scrolling, until I saw what was behind her, the hallway, that photo frame. I tapped to enlarge the picture. My stomach dropped. It was the same wall where our old family portrait used to hang, the one from when I was 16, the last one, where I was still centered between Mom and Dad. We'd taken it on the front porch back when they still pretended I belonged. But that frame was gone. In its place was a glossy new portrait, Brinley in the center beaming. Mom in a cream sweater, Dad looking stiff, coached into a smile. Even their golden retriever Sprout was sitting in front like he belonged more than I did. But I wasn't in it. Not just cropped replaced. I stared at that image for a long time. My thumb hovered over the zoom, then backed away. There was no point. The truth didn't need a close-up. That night I didn't cry. I expected I might, that the omission would sting like fresh salt. But instead something colder settled in, a kind of hollow heat, like watching someone throw away a letter before opening it and realizing it was yours. Hours later there was a knock at my motel door, 3 short raps, hesitant. I opened it slowly. Dara stood there. My old best friend. Her coat was too thin for the night air, her eyes rimmed red. She clutched something wrapped in an old dish towel. "They told me you were in trouble," she said softly. I didn't believe it until I saw this. She stepped in, holding out a small envelope. My name was on it in my own handwriting. Soft, rounded letters. The kind I only used when I was writing from the heart. "I found it," Dara whispered, "in your mom's desk, under a pile of expired coupons." I didn't take it right away, just stared. I knew exactly what it was. The birthday card. I'd sent it last year, saved up for weeks to put a cafe gift card inside. Wrote a letter about second chances, about maybe healing, about missing our Tuesday talks. She never opened it. Dara set it gently on the table beside the microwave. "I wasn't snooping," she said quickly. "I was just dropping something off for Brinley. Your mom had me wait in the kitchen. It was just there, like it meant nothing. I opened it this time. Mom, if there's still a space in your heart for me, I'd like to sit there again. Not asking for everything. Just a callback. I miss you. Love, Kaia." The paper felt soft, nearly translucent from time and neglect. I folded it again with careful fingers. "That wasn't all I found," Dara added, voice low. She reached into her tote and slid a few printed pages across the table. "Brinley's new site, the Success Academy, or whatever she's calling it now. I used to help you build this stuff, remember? I'd know your voice anywhere." I scanned the first page, then the next. My breath stopped. She had taken everything, my rubric, my diagnostic intro, my writing prompt bank, the sidebar headers, even my design palette, cool navy and silver with muted earth tones. "She said you gave it to her," Dara said flatly. I knew that was a lie. I didn't speak. My voice had dropped into my chest somewhere between grief and rage. Even my metaphors were there, my diagrams. The section where I'd written real progress isn't loud, it's layered. Brinley had changed nothing but the name on the footer. I ran a fingertip along the edge of the page. "She didn't just erase me," I whispered. "She replaced me." Dara reached out, resting her hand on mine. For once, neither of us said anything else. Because what do you say really when you realize the people who raised you would rather wear your work than see your worth? That night I sat on the floor with the envelope beside me, and the pages Brinley had plagiarized spread out like evidence. It wasn't just emotional anymore, it was intentional, and it wasn't going to stay quiet. Not this time. The next morning, I opened my laptop, still shaking from everything Dara had shown me. The motel room felt smaller than ever, walls pressing and radiator clicking like a metronome to my anger. I clicked into my old cloud archive, searching folders I hadn't touched in years. There it was. A scanned document I barely remembered uploading, Will Joan Linford final PDF. I opened it with trembling hands. There in her precise script, my grandmother's handwriting, was the clause I had forgotten even existed. All intellectual property and preparatory curriculum created or co-developed with Kaia Linford shall remain under her sole name and ownership, effective immediately. I reread it 5 times. Grandma Joan had protected me quietly, legally, completely. And my mother had buried it, like she'd buried my card, my letters, my name in the family. They hadn't just erased me emotionally. They'd tried to erase me legally, publicly, but Grandma had seen ahead. She'd planted a seed. And now I was ready to water it. That afternoon I booked a consultation with Elise Roman, a quiet but sharp-eyed attorney in Haven Ridge who specialized in IP law. Her office smelled like strong coffee and old paperbacks. She listened while I laid it all out, no dramatics, just facts. I showed her the curriculum, the timeline, the will, and the screenshots of Brinley's Success Academy. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair and tapped her pen once against the desk. You don't need a lawsuit to take back what's yours, she said evenly. You just need a notice. She helped me draft a formal IP ownership filing. We attached the will, the date-stamped documents, early drafts stored in my cloud, and photographic evidence of materials Brinley had published under her own name. Then we submitted the claim to 3 places: the IP archive and online registry, the platform Brinley used to host her content, and most importantly me. I wasn't going to fight her with threats. I was going to fight her with evidence. That evening, I returned to Redfern Suites and turned on my desk lamp. I brewed a fresh cup of peppermint tea and cleared the cluttered table. Just me, my laptop, and the truth. I recorded a video. No lighting tricks, no makeup, no filter. Just me, Kaia Linford, in a dim room. Voice calm, hands steady. First, I read the paragraph from the will aloud. I held the signed page up to the camera, then shared my screen. I showed the original course drafts, the dated files, the lesson plan rubrics, the design mock-ups from 2018, years before Brinley's site ever existed. Then came the side-by-side comparison. My exact language, her rebranded version. Nothing edited, nothing spun. At the end, I held up the unopened birthday card Dara had brought me. I said one thing. They erased me, but I still kept the receipts. I didn't ask for sympathy. I didn't tell people to share it. I didn't even put music in the background. I just clicked upload and closed the screen. Within the hour, my phone lit up like a switchboard. A parent I had worked with last fall messaged your course, helped my son pass the GED. Don't let anyone take that from you. A teacher I collaborated with reposted the slides. A blogger I'd never met stitched the video on TikTok, captioned, "This is what calm power looks like. No yelling, just truth." The comment section flooded fast. "This woman saved my daughter's confidence. Brinley should be ashamed. Real educators don't need ring lights. Funny how loud people get when the quiet ones finally speak." By midnight, the Reddit thread calling me bitter was locked by moderators due to evidence of misrepresentation. Brinley's followers began to turn, not dramatically, but steadily. And I didn't have to say another word. I went to bed that night not with relief but with clarity. A clarity sharp enough to cut through the years of noise. I pinned the printed will to the motel wall. Beside it, I taped Dara's printouts, and next to them the birthday card that was never opened. One line in my grandmother's note echoed in my mind as I turned off the lamp. "You will build what no one sees today." She believed in me before anyone else did. Now I would build it, not in secret, not in silence, but in full view. I woke up to a red flag, literally. Your professional site has been temporarily suspended due to multiple copyright violation claims. I sat up in bed at Redfern Suites, the neon light still pulsing outside my window. Now a mocking rhythm to the panic rising in my chest. 3 more emails landed within minutes. Subject lines nearly identical. Urgent copyright review pending. Platform access restricted. Proprietary content under investigation. No sender name, just an anonymized IP address. But I already knew. Brinley. Or more precisely, her team. Margot, my attorney, confirmed it with a single phone call. It traces back to the branding agency she uses. This isn't a coincidence, Kaia. They're trying to bury you legally, not just socially. They were coming for me, not with apologies, with paperwork. I didn't cry, I didn't panic. I opened a folder and began. First, I compiled every curriculum document, dated drafts, version histories, Canva layouts, backup screenshots. Then I retrieved the notarized clause from Grandma Jones' will. Finally, I highlighted the one sentence that mattered most. All educational and preparatory content remains under Kaia Linford's sole ownership. Then I wrote a counterclaim, not a rant, a record. I do not scream, I typed, I document. That same afternoon, I sent emails not only to the platform's legal team, but to every single parent, teacher, and partner I had worked with over the past year. I attached the proof, the receipts, the will, my voice in writing. I wasn't trying to go viral. I was just trying to survive. But the internet had other plans. By the next morning, my inbox was filled with replies. "Thank you for sharing your truth. I knew there was more to the story. My daughter got into college because of your help." Then came the post. Brinley on her Instagram story, face bare, but lighting perfect, looking vulnerable. Caption, "People love to steal the spotlight once the hard work's done. It's exhausting." But this time, it backfired. Within the hour, someone responded. an intern she had let go last winter. They uploaded everything early drafts of the Success Academy with Kaia's metadata still intact timestamps, showing edits made before Brinley ever registered a domain Slack conversations, where Brinley wrote, "Just copy what Kaia had, it already works." The screenshots went viral. Comment sections under Brinley's posts flipped overnight. "Wait, this looks like textbook theft. Where's Kaia's name on anything?" I believed the family brand too easily. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Instead, I sat in the quiet of my room, peppermint tea and hand laptop on my knees, and watched the tide turn, not because I yelled louder, but because the truth had its own volume. That night, Margot called again. "Kaia," she said slowly, "I don't want you to panic." But her team just filed an emergency injunction. I closed my eyes. Of course they did. They're trying to block your site permanently. Also, your name is being dragged in a Reddit thread that's picking up traction. I could almost hear Brinley's mascara streaking down her cheeks behind the keyboard, typing like a woman on fire. In that thread, she wrote, "My sister is unstable. We've tried to help her. She's just bitter. Bitter." That word again. Used by people who think your anger is invalid simply because it's no longer convenient for them. I set my mug down and opened the thread. I read the comments. Brutal, some of them. Ungrateful much. Jealous sister strikes again. Typical drama seeker. I almost logged off. But then I saw one comment buried at the bottom. Funny how the receipts always show up when the loud ones overplay their hand. That was all I needed. I didn't scream. I opened my webcam. Dim room, no filter, just me. I placed the will in front of me, read it aloud. Then I screen shared every piece of evidence side by side. The timestamps, the files, the source diagrams, the email from Brinley's agency where my name had been scrubbed out. I looked directly into the camera. "They say silence is strength," I said quietly. "But sometimes the truth needs a voice. This is mine." I hit upload. Within 2 hours, my phone didn't stop buzzing. Former clients reposted the video. Teachers stitched it. Writers echoed it. Even the Reddit thread was flagged by moderators for misrepresentation. By midnight, Brinley's site had been flagged too for content violation. And me, I wasn't small anymore. I wasn't invisible. I was undeniable. And they knew it. A few days later, I received a certified package. No return address. Inside, a neatly folded legal letter on heavy cream paper stamped with Brinley's attorney's seal. The kind of document that pretends to be kind while whispering threats between the lines. Proposed settlement agreement enclosed. Full rights and name restoration in exchange for confidentiality and non-disparagement. Translation: take the money, delete the truth, stay quiet. The check inside was generous 6 figures. Enough to rent a better apartment, buy better furniture, maybe even launch a business of my own. But it felt heavy, not with value, with chains. I read the document once as the version of me who used to cry alone in her car outside tutoring centers. Then again as the woman who built herself back up from a motel room file, by file, student by student. I didn't flinch. I walked to the corner shredder in my new apartment, fed the envelope in and listened as silence turned into dust. That afternoon I posted a single image on my now restored site. My name, my credentials, and one sentence beneath it: you don't owe people silence just because they shared your last name. I didn't need their apology, because I had peace. Not the soft kind, not the cinematic kind. The kind that comes from choosing yourself even when no one else ever did. I launched a small scholarship fund in my grandmother's name. Nothing flashy, just enough to help a few students like Leah who needed someone to believe in them early. Thank you notes started arriving. Most were from strangers. One said, "You were the first person who told me I could do it." I believed you. I sat with that letter a long time. Not because it hurt, but because it didn't. This quiet, unshakable space. I built it in the silence they once thought would bury me. And it's mine. I haven't heard from them since. Not for holidays. Not when Brinley's site was permanently shut down. Not when word spread that my mother quietly sold the house, some say to cover legal costs, others say because she finally had enough. But I didn't wait for gossip. I didn't wait for closure whispered through someone else's mouth. They weren't monsters. Just people too afraid to look in the mirror, so they made me the crack in the frame. And I'm done being that. I didn't fight to destroy them. I fought to free myself. And freedom, it's quieter than I imagined. but not empty. It's the soft sound of a student saying thank you. It's the weight of a letter that lands in your hands and says, "You mattered." That's more than revenge. That's peace. What about you? Have you ever stopped chasing the apology that never came and realized peace was the real closure? Have you ever been erased by your own family and still found the strength to build something lasting? Let me know where you're watching from, and if Kaia's story spoke to you, if you felt even one line land in your chest, leave a comment below. Don't forget to subscribe to Sophia's Revenge Stories. We tell truths most people try to bury every single day.